They said humans were prey, soft, fragile, weak. But when the monsters came, when the predators fell and their children were about to die, it wasn't a warrior who saved them. It was a scientist, and her name would be carried in the hands of every predator across the stars. This is the legend of Arya Chen, the human who died protecting the CUBS and changed an empire forever. Before they ever touched the stars, the Kravathi ruled a world forged in fire. Dravikar, a planet that bled heat and lightning, spun beneath a dying red sun. Its continents were jagged with volcanic ridges, its seas dark with ash, and its jungles crawled with beasts whose blood burned hot enough to seal their own wounds. In that crucible, the Kravathi were born. Four-armed, scaled, fanged. They hunted from the moment they could crawl. To live was to fight. To die was to prove you were worth remembering. For thousands of years, they followed one law, sung in every brood song, carved into every blade. Only the strong deserve the dawn. Tribes rose, fell, and rose again. Clans devoured clans until empires walked on bones. Their duels decided the fate of nations, and when they finally forged machines that could pierce the sky, they didn't reach upward for knowledge. They reached for new prey. But the galaxy was vast, and even the fiercest predator finds something greater when it looks beyond its world. The Kravathi met other species, older, weaker, wiser. Some bowed before them, some resisted and were broken. Yet among those who survived, they learned something unexpected. Power without purpose is hollow. In time, they became the soldiers of the Galactic Council, proud, honorable, disciplined. But still, they saw themselves as the apex. No one could match their strength. No one could rival their ferocity. Until they met humanity. When humans first entered the council, the Kravathi laughed. Here was a species soft of skin and bone, no claws, no venom, no armor. Prey, by every natural law. And yet, this prey had conquered a world that should have killed them 1,000 times over. They had built cities that reached the clouds, tamed fire and atom, and walked into the void with nothing but willpower. The Kravathi didn't understand them, not yet. They respected strength, but what they saw in humans wasn't physical strength. It was something else, something quieter, something that refused to die. That lesson, the one that would reshape a civilization, began with a single name. Arya Chen, a scientist, not a soldier, a woman who would teach predators what it means to protect. Arya Chen was not a warrior. She was a scientist, soft-spoken, curious, endlessly patient. Born in the arcologies of New Shanghai, she grew up watching storms roll across the Pacific domes, dreaming not of conquest, but of life, how it adapts, how it endures. Her parents built machines that reached the stars. Her friends flew them, but Arya wanted to understand what lived among them. By 25, she had a doctorate in xenobiology and a posting in the Galactic Survey Corps, the explorers who studied new worlds before colonies took root. Her next assignment was supposed to be routine, a jungle moon called Thornkai. Thornkai was rich with oxygen and crawling with life. To the Kravathi, it was a proving ground, a place where young warriors learned to hunt or die. To Arya, it was paradise. When she arrived, the Kravathi regarded her with suspicion. They saw a small, soft creature wrapped in fabric instead of scales, with eyes too gentle for a world like theirs. Some mocked her, others ignored her. But council law demanded cooperation, and so she was allowed to live and work near the colony's edge, cataloging plants and animals. Each day she walked unarmed into the jungle, scanning, collecting, recording. When predators growled, she spoke softly to them, fascinated, fearless. It was during one of those days that the elder warrior Drax approached her. Massive, scarred, his forearms marked with ritual cuts from 100 battles. He watched her kneel beside a carnivorous vine, carefully trimming its spines for study. "You walk unarmed through hunting grounds," he rumbled. "Are you brave or foolish, human?" Arya looked up, sunlight glinting off her visor. "Both," she said simply. "That's how our species survived." Drax tilted his head, unsure whether to laugh or to respect her. He chose silence. In the days that followed, he watched her work. When storms came, she stayed outside, recording readings as lightning split the sky. When venomous insects swarmed, she stood her ground, her breath steady, her voice calm. He had seen soldiers falter under less. Slowly, The Kravathi colony began to change around her. Cubs followed her, fascinated by her strange tools and gentle tone. Healers came to ask her about medicines. Even the most prideful warriors nodded when she passed. Arya never fought, never boasted, never demanded respect. She simply endured. And in that quiet endurance, the Kravathi saw something familiar, the same flame that burned in their own blood. Then came the day the sky turned red. It began with static across the colony's comm systems. Then the scanners flared, dozens of unmarked ships descending fast through the clouds. No insignia, no communication. The Kravathi recognized the readings immediately. Ravagers, not a species, a plague. Biomechanical swarms that devoured metal and flesh alike, leaving only glass and dust behind. The alarm echoed through Thornkai. Warriors scrambled to their stations. Drax took command, his voice a thunder through the comms. Every fighter was ordered to the western front, where the main attack would hit. But destiny, as always, found a quieter battlefield. Because at that same moment, far from the colony, Arya Chen was deep in the jungle, with 6 Kravathi cubs at her side. The jungle of Thornkai whispered with heat and breath. Arya stood knee-deep in fernlight, recording readings from a cluster of glowing spores when the first alarm blared across the sky. She looked up. Red clouds twisted, lightning strobed. 6 Kravathi cubs, no older than 10, froze beside her. They were the children of warriors, sent to watch the human scientist who always smiled, even when beasts roared. When the emergency beacon flared crimson, their scales paled in fear. Arya tapped her comm. This is Arya Chen, requesting immediate extraction. Eastern Quadrant, Ridge 7. I have 6 cubs with me. Static. Then Drax's voice, broken by interference. Stay hidden. We are. The rest dissolved in white noise. She looked to the horizon and saw it. Dark specks, descending. Not ships, things. Ravagers. 12 of them, at least. Biomechanical horrors that crawled through the air on thrashing limbs. Eyes like molten glass. Bodies stitched from steel and sinew. Predators born from forgotten wars, built to consume everything. The cubs screamed. Arya could have run. She could have hidden alone. But she didn't. She looked down at their trembling claws, then back at the monsters cutting through the treeline. Her hand shook only once, when she activated her comm again. This is Arya Chen, Eastern Settlement under attack. I have 6 cubs with me. She paused, swallowed. I'm buying time. Send help. Those were the last words the colony heard from her alive. The Ravagers descended like a storm of blades. Arya grabbed her pack, not weapons, but tools. A plasma torch, a geological scanner, 3 seismic charges, a box of emergency flares. She turned to the cubs. Cave. Now. They obeyed, instincts overridden by the sharpness of her tone. At the base of the ridge, she found a narrow crack in the stone, barely wide enough for the cubs to squeeze through. She pushed them inside, one by one, whispering calm over their frightened breathing. When the last one crawled in, she sealed the opening with loose rocks and turned toward the canyon. The Ravagers were there, tall as tanks, moving with the hunger of machines that remembered how to kill. The first struck. She dodged, barely, the air splitting where its limb slashed down. She hurled a flare. It burst in blinding light, burning white through their sensors. They shrieked. 3 stumbled, colliding with the rocks. She triggered her seismic charge, threw it at their feet, and dove behind cover. The explosion tore through the canyon. Stone cascaded. Dust swallowed the sun. 2 Ravagers vanished beneath falling rock. But they adapted, climbing, skittering, splitting apart like insects reforming. Arya lit her plasma torch. It hissed alive, a blue flame cutting through shadow. She gripped it like a blade. The battle lasted 17 minutes. She burned, ducked, cut, ran. When one lunged, she drove the torch through its throat. When another fell, she triggered the geological scanner's power cell, overloading it into a makeshift mine. One by one, the monsters fell. Her body bled, bones cracked, lungs screamed for air, but she did not stop. When Drax's rescue team finally reached the ridge, the canyon was silent. Smoke curled through the air. 12 Ravagers lay torn apart, limbs scattered, cores extinguished. And at the cave's mouth, they found her, Arya Chen, lying in the dust. her plasma torch still burning faintly beside her hand. Her eyes closed, her face peaceful. Behind her, the 6 cubs trembled, alive, untouched. Drax knelt beside her body, her hands trembling. He looked around, at the traps, the precision, the fury. This wasn't instinct, he whispered. This was choice. He turned to his warriors. We were wrong. Humans are not prey. His voice broke. They are something far more dangerous. The funeral pyre burned for 3 days. Every Kravathi on Thorn-Kai came to see the human who had stood between death and their children. When her name was spoken, the wind carried it across the jungles, echoing through the volcanic ridges. Arya Chen, guardian of the young. Drax stood beside the pyre, silent. His armor scorched, his eyes hollow. In all his centuries of war, he had seen courage and sacrifice, but never like this. She had not fought for her own kind. She had not fought for honor, or duty, or glory. She had fought for their children, a species that had mocked her weakness. When the flames died, Drax gathered what remained, fragments of her equipment, shards of Ravager metal, and a single broken torch. He carried them into the heart of his forge. For 3 months, the fires of Thorn-Kai burned day and night. Warriors from across the colonies came to watch the old soldier work. He melted the Ravager armor she had shattered, folded it with the alloys of her tools, and tempered it in volcanic glass. He shaped the blade by hand, his claws blistered, his breath ragged. When he finished, the weapon gleamed like liquid dusk, balanced, deadly, beautiful. Along its spine, he engraved a single word in human script. Arya. He called it Chenthar, Guardian's Edge. When he brought it before the colony, every warrior lowered their head. The cubs she had saved stood at the front, their small scales still marked with soot. Drax placed the blade in the earth before them and spoke. She gave her life to protect the helpless. She faced monsters so that our children would see another dawn. From this day forward, her name will live in every blade we forge. The crowd was silent, but the silence trembled with emotion. Then, one by one, the warriors stepped forward. I will carry Arya, one said. I will carry her, another echoed. Soon, the entire colony spoke as one. A vow, rolling like thunder through the jungle. From that day forward, every Kravathi warrior carried a Chenthar, a blade forged with her name, etched in human script. It became a rite of passage, a symbol of duty, not dominance. When a young warrior received their first blade, they swore an oath beneath the twin suns of Thorn-Kai. I carry Arya. I protect the young. I stand when others run. And so the creed of predators changed forever. No longer, only the strong deserve the dawn. Now, they sang a new truth. When the weak stand for the helpless, the strong remember their purpose. The story spread beyond Thorn-Kai, to every Kravathi world, every ship, every soldier. The image of a human scientist, standing against monsters with nothing but fire and will, became legend. Statues rose. Songs were written. The warriors of Dravikar, born to hunt, had learned to honor those who protected instead of destroyed. And in that shift, their empire found something greater than strength. They found meaning. Years passed. The 6 cubs Arya saved grew into legends. Each carried the name Chun as part of their warrior title, a mark of honor, a promise never to forget. They were no longer the frightened younglings she had shielded in the cave. They became commanders, philosophers, teachers. Their stories spread across the stars. And through them, Arya's name was never silenced. One of them, Varesh Chun, became the first Kravathi to serve in a joint human-Kravathi defense force. He was feared in battle, but when asked what made him fight, his answer was simple. My first memory of fear was seeing a human stand against monsters. My first memory of hope was realizing she stood for me. That single line was carved into the walls of every Kravathi academy. Generations later, the galaxy changed again. The stars saw the rise of a new threat, the Called Dominion, a synthetic collective that sought to erase all biological life. For the first time in history, the Kravathi and humans stood side by side. When the war began, young Kravathi soldiers carried Chenthar blades etched with the name Arya. To them, it was more than a weapon. It was a promise. Drax was old by then, his scales dull with age, his limbs scarred by time. Yet when the call came for unity, he rose once more. He walked into the great council hall, the original Chenthar blade in his hands. The air was thick with tension, humans on one side, Kravathi on the other, history heavy between them. Drax placed the blade upon the table between them. The steel caught the light and gleamed red as fire. "We judged you as prey," he said quietly. "Your kind proved us wrong. When Kravathi and humans stand together, nothing in this galaxy can break us." Across from him, a human admiral, her hair silver, her eyes steady, reached out and traced the engraving. "Arya. She would have liked this," the admiral said softly. "She always believed understanding was possible." Drax's mandibles twitched in what humans had learned was a smile. "She did more than teach us understanding," he replied. "She taught us what strength truly means. Humans are the most dangerous predators in the galaxy, not because they protect their own, but because they protect everyone." The war that followed was brutal, but the alliance held. When the Call Dominion fell, it was not because of superior firepower or strategy or numbers. It fell because two species, one born to hunt, one born to endure, fought as one. And when the final battle ended, the Kravathi sang, not a victory hymn, but a song that had been passed down for 100 years. The Song of Arya. It told of a small soft-skinned being who faced monsters with fire and will, who stood between death and children not of her kind. It ended with a line every Kravathi knew by heart. "When the weak stand for the helpless, the strong remember their purpose." Centuries later, that song was still sung. In the halls of Kravathi war academies, in the nurseries of human colonies, in the quiet places where courage is remembered. On Earth, a statue of Arya Chen stands in the United Galactic Museum. She is carved in the moment before her final stand, torch in hand, eyes unafraid. Beneath her feet, a plaque bears the words, "Courage needs no claws." And far across the stars, on a forgotten world swallowed by dust, an explorer once found an ancient blade buried beneath the ruins of a Kravathi temple, forged from alien steel and human metal, etched with a single word, Arya. The explorer didn't know the full story. Only fragments, whispers of a human who faced monsters to save another species' children. But as they lifted the blade, light caught along its spine, and for an instant, it glowed. Because some stories never die. They evolve. They change. They live on in the hands of those who remember. And somewhere, in the hearts of predators who learned compassion from prey, the name Arya still burns, like a torch that never goes out. Centuries have passed. Empires have risen and fallen. But every Kravathi warrior, before their first battle, still whispers the same vow. "I carry Arya. I protect the young. I stand when others run." Her courage became more than a story. It became their soul. If this legend moved you, share it. Let her name be spoken again, not as myth, but as memory. Because courage needs no claws. It only needs one choice, to stand when others run.